When I started doing research on which evaporative cooler I'd look to temporarily replace the Arctic Air Ultra, I saw a lot of evaporative coolers that looked like the Arctic Air Ultra. I really didn't give much consideration to that until I stumbled upon some references to another version of the Arctic Air, which was called the Pure Chill. And I thought it was at first just another copy and didn't pay much attention to it. But then I took a further look and noticed that it was, in fact, a new version of the Arctic Air brand evaporative cooler. And so I picked one up. And here is the Arctic Air Pure Chill. So like the Basin Pure Ultra Chill, whatever that one was called, this also claims that it has a UV light built in. And while the Basin was kind of just saying it and doesn't really seem like there was much or if any intention or effort to put that actually in there, Arctic Air did seem, or Ontel or whoever manufactured this, did seem like they intended to put something in here, because there are some additional notations on the box that indicate that they intended to put something in here that was a UVC based sterilization mechanism. And it's specifically, if you look at the bottom, if I turn this around, there are references that the unit contains an ultraviolet bulb that contains mercury. And they're telling you don't put it in the trash. There's a Proposition 65 warning specifically pertaining to the ultraviolet light bulb. And then finally, there is a warning saying people or animals shouldn't look directly at the ultraviolet light. Finally, there's an EPA establishment number. Inside the unit, there does seem to be some attempts at designing something that was going to accommodate a UVC bulb for sterilization of the water. But make no mistake, there is no ultraviolet light. Well, there's no UVC bulb in this unit. And if there's any ultraviolet light in here, it is the spurious ultraviolet that's coming out of perhaps the LEDs when they're illuminating. That's as much as you're going to get out of this unit. So that out of the way, let's take a look at the rest of the unit and see how it stacks up. What you get in this box is just very similar to what the Arctic Air Ultra gives you. It gives you the unit itself, a replaceable evaporative filter, a wall adapter, and an instruction guide and some other stuff inside. Not much else inside the box besides that, but I will show that inside it is mostly cardboard packaging, that cardboard egg crate stuff, as well as plastic bags, so it's pretty easy to recycle this. Let's get it out of the way, take a look at the unit. Okay, so here it is here. It's been running, because it's hot outside today, and I just stopped it briefly and let the other ones run for a while we take a look at it. Looks very similar to the Arctic Air Ultra. And setup and usage and pretty much everything about it is virtually the same as the Arctic Air Ultra, with the exception of they removed the lid, the flip-up lid, and replaced it with this removable top, which is kind of nice. The only thing I noticed that I didn't like about this removable top is that it's really loosely fit, and sometimes if the unit is on, it can vibrate this top a little bit and kind of make some slight harmonic resonance noises that are a little bit strange. I found that seems to mostly occur when the unit is almost out of water, and the longer I've been running it, that sound seems to be going away. So perhaps it was just something that occurred when it was just out of the box brand new. The construction has changed a little bit from the Arctic Air Ultra, and it seems to try to alleviate some of the concerns I had with the Arctic Air Ultra when I was looking at it last year. First, the flip-up door, like I mentioned, is gone, so you can just pour water right into the top of this, and there's no need to worry about it splashing around or overfilling. It's pretty easy to see when the water's come up over the lip of this plastic, you know that it's full. It's not really easy to clean the inside of this because the lid comes off. Whereas the previous one, you really couldn't get inside there. When I tried to pull back on that top piece to get it apart, I may have cracked the plastic because it's kind of glued down. Anyways, it's not anymore, and you can get inside here and easily clean it. The top where the tank is, and then inside and the bottom, but that was just as easy as it was last year. Now the ultrasonic transducer has this little cap over it, which I found strange, and I thought when I first took the lid off, oh, there is a UVC bulb in here for sterilization, which I found odd because there's plastic all around and it would just degrade to the plastic. But pulling this off, there is features in the plastic here that it seems like they were going to try to put something inside there to provide UVC functionality. But seeing all this is plastic, you got to be really careful with that because the plastic can just degrade and actually the UVC can attack a lot of the materials in the plastic and just have the whole thing basically break down. I think that's why they eventually just didn't actually implement it. But you can see there's like a ridge here where there wasn't in the previous Arctic Air Ultra. There also is an LED down there in the bottom, which with this cap on can make it kind of seem like there might be an ultraviolet C light in there, but there is not. So if you're buying this and using microbiologically unsafe water and expecting this to actually help purify it so that you can use it with this unit, you cannot. Then let's talk about just usage. It's very similar to the Ultra, like I've said before. It only has 2 buttons, fan speed control and the illumination. The fan speed control has 3 speeds, and the illumination now has 7 colors, I believe it is. The box has it on it. And you can also turn the light completely off. When you trim a light completely off, the lights for the fan speed still stay on and they illuminate through the body of this, so you still get kind of a dull blue glow coming from here, which is more noticeable than on the Basin. So I kind of liked this. I kind of like the Basin better in that regard because you really can't see you can just barely see the LEDs. And I think it's because this has the similar light guides that run all the way down. They're quite long, and so you get some illumination out the sides of it, protrudes out through here, through the water, and out the front. You get a little more waste light coming through the unit when you want them off. So as far as operation, you fill it full of water. It comes with the same type of filter that the other units, the Arctic Air Ultra, came with. It just is now designated Arctic Air Pure Chill on the top. This filter is pretty much the same as the Arctic Air Ultra. It seems like they may have changed the material slightly, but the thickness of the material, the way it feels, and the way the unit performs with it in it, as well as how it survives washing through a dishwasher cycle. This one's already been through 1 dishwasher cycle. It appears they tried to improve the water pickup on this filter by allowing a little bit more water to stay in the filter tray. And you can see down here, I hope we can do this without knocking water everywhere, but there is some water just sitting down in the bottom of this tray. And when it's running on high or medium, it was actually running on low for most of the day, there will be enough water dispensed into this that it actually keeps a little bit of water in the bottom of the tray and keeps this filter nice and wet. But if you run it on low, it seems like it doesn't do that as much. The outer filter elements are damp, but they're not wet. These ones in the middle here are definitely wet, and you can see they're darker than the other ones. But it does a better job than the Arctic Air Ultra in keeping most of these filter elements, if not all of them, wet on high and medium, where the Ultra really didn't do that. So that's a nice improvement there. And again, this is the exact same filter size as what's in the Ultra, and the replacement ones that come, you can also just put them in here as well for, I think now they're like $12, and I picked up 2 of them because the one in the Ultra is it's been a year now, so it's time to replace it. A nice improvement on the filter as well. So I'll put the filter back in there, and let's turn it on and see how it operates. It's still a little bit of a task to get the filter down and snapped in, but once you have it in there, you're not messing with it that often, except to clean it once a week. To power the unit, you have to use the power adapter that they supply with the unit, which is laying back here and is a 5-volt, 1.5 amp output. But I'm not going to use this because I want to do power analysis and actually use the cable that I made last year for the Arctic Air Ultra. So that's what I'll be using for the rest of this video and for all the testing. But when I plug it in, and I need the USB power analyzer in line with that. And there we go. It is now powered on and drawing about 11 to 12 milliwatts when in standby. So once you turn it on, everything ramps all the way up. And you can see that it hit 9.2 watts as it sped up to full speed, and then came back down to around 8.4 watts, which is a notable increase from what the Arctic Air Ultra consumed, which is about, I believe, 7.8 watts. It moves a lot of air, and it seems like it has a more consistent airflow. That might be due to the fact that they changed fans in here, and this now has a 12 volt 450 milliamp fan in it with a different blade pitch and a shorter blade throw than the Arctic Air Ultra. And I think it helps with that baffle to maybe decrease the amount of blades that are actually blade surface that's behind there that's being blocked by that baffle that prevents the ultrasonic transducer from blowing backward into the fan, and I think helps circulate air and create turbulent flow and all that magical stuff. So on high, it's about it's coming down to about 8 watts now, about 8.1 to about 8. And I think that's everything kind of getting stabilized here, but still above the Ultra by at least 200 to 400 milliwatts. On medium, it comes down to around 4.5 watts. And on low, it hangs around 2.8 to 2.9 watts. Because this has the ability to change the tank illumination color, if I pick different colors, obviously it'll change the power consumption. I'm gonna go with white. I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but there's a white color. And that's driving all the LEDs. And if I go back to the highest speed, let's see what that gets our power consumption up to. Yeah, I hit about 8.9. Now we're settling back around 8.2, 8.1. So a bit higher. And if I go down to low, we just leave it there at about 2.8 watts. And I turn the illumination off. I gotta cycle through all of them. It drops by about 200 milliwatts. The Basing Arctic Chill seemed to consume quite a bit less power, and it had similar air volume output, but we'll put that to the test when we look at performance. Let's talk performance. The first thing I did was measure the air flow. The Arctic Air Pure Chill on high achieved 116.2 CFM. On medium, it achieved 92.9 CFM, and on low, it achieved 84.2 CFM. And that's pretty close to the Arctic Air Ultra, but it is slightly less. So what does that mean for cooling rate? Well, again, I tested it in two different conditions. One was the kind of minimal performance that you might expect, and then nominal performance. The minimal performance was on a day when it was quite cool outside. In fact, the ambient temperature was about 72 degrees Fahrenheit and was pretty much on the border of this not being able to function. Most evaporative coolers can't cool the air much below 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So I figured it was a good day to test it to see how it performed with that ambient temperature. And so the cooling output was actually quite impressive. On the low side, it was 485.7 BTU per hour. And on the high side, it was 684.9 BTU per hour. It's slightly lower than the Arctic Air Ultra, but that unit was tested with an ambient air temperature that was much higher. When I did the minimum testing, it was just hot day after hot day after hot day. So there wasn't an opportunity to test it at this close to its limit of operation. Very good considering that. When it got a bit warmer out, so did the humidity. The ambient air temperature rose to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the humidity was 55%. Here, the Arctic Air Pure Chill did quite well. On the low side, 767.5 BTU per hour, up to 1,082.4 BTU per hour. So that's quite good, and it puts it pretty close to what the Arctic Air Ultra was able to achieve when I tested it last year. And that period of testing occurred during a time where it was much hotter and quite a bit drier according to the numbers that I have written down here. There's going to be some variation based on the environmental conditions when the tests are being run. Once I finish up all these tests, I'd like to wrap it up with running all of these and kind of getting a baseline with all of them running in similar environmental conditions. It's more of a head-to-head comparison, but this gives you a ballpark range of basically if something's working, or in the case of that first Abason evaporative cooler that I tested with the water curtain, there's very low cooling performance, and if you're expecting it to actually help cool even a small area around you, it's really not going to be able to do that. So overall, what do I think of it? I really think it's a nice improvement over the Arctic Air Ultra. I wish the power consumption was a bit lower. I know we're only talking about 9 watts as opposed to about 8.7, but Bason has a unit that, like I said, gets close as far as the airflow rates and is able to stay around the 5 watt mark. So if you're running off a power bank, you get longer runtime out of any given power bank. I wish they would ditch this, DC barrel jack and just use a mini USB plug. There's so many out there that use it. I don't know why they've chosen to go this route. It kind of bugs me that this unit still has that as the only option. It still does have this interesting quirk where after 8 or 10 hours it just turns off. Again, Bason seems to have implemented a better solution, which was after 5 or 6 hours, it just turns off the ultrasonic transducer and allows the unit to run as a fan and dry the filter out if you don't turn it off and turn it back on again, which is a nice feature. And it doesn't have the ability to turn off the ultrasonic transducer, so you have to let the unit run until the water runs completely out and then run it as a fan until the filter dries out. It's a little less functional. It's simpler because it only has pretty much 2 functions, fan and light. But I like that the Bason has these other modes that it can operate in that give you a bit more usability. But I will say, finally, and which would probably bring me over to the Arctic Air right now in the peak of summer, is that 2 things. This filter is better than the ones that come with that Bason unit. They just do a better job of absorbing much more liquid and evaporating that liquid. The price of this is currently $39.88 at Walmart.com and probably in Walmart retail stores as well. Whereas I don't know what you could get the Bason unit that I previously reviewed for. Overall, the simplicity of setting up and using this unit, I'd probably go with this one right now because the price is just better and it's pretty stable. If you can't find this for some reason, that Bason one works pretty well. And if you get one and it has that filter in it, you can very easily just order the Arctic Air Ultra filter for $12 and it'll improve the performance of that unit considerably. And I'll be doing a test showing the difference between those 2 filters. But overall, I think it's a good improvement. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe and leave a comment below if you have questions regarding this unit or would like to see other stuff tested. And I will see you all in the next one. Take care.